I'm John Kaiser in Toronto, March 3rd, 2019, talking to Bob Wares of Osisko Metals at the Metals Investor Forum. Bob, welcome to Toronto.
Thank you, John. Pleasure to be here.
Osisko Metals is a zinc-focused company. Zinc prices are pretty good. They're in the $1.20 to $1.30 range. They've been as high as $1.50. But zinc was in the sink for decades, from 1980 on, when China started coming on stream, and currently represent 40% of global supply. And because of the low zinc price, not a lot of deposits in the Western world have had money gone into it to mobilize new supply. And so now we have a situation where only a few new mines are coming in. Zinc warehouse stocks are down substantially. But the concern is it doesn't matter. China, as soon as we get some stronger zinc prices, they will just ramp up new production. Is this actually a reality? Is the market wrong? Does China have the ability to even maintain its current output that supplies 40% of world zinc production?
Well, in fact, China has been net importers of zinc, and I don't think that's going to change. It's very hard to get reliable numbers out of China in terms of production and supply, but I think in terms of them consuming all of their production, that's here to stay. And when you look at global distribution of zinc deposits from a geological point of view, there are no world-class zinc deposits in China. There are a multitude of small operations which feed the stream. How reliable those are, I have no idea. But if China really was to make an impact on the global zinc supply, those major deposits would be known. In the rare earth space, for example, China controls the global market because they have exceptionally rich long-term reserves of rare earths. But in the zinc space, I don't think that exists. So to ensure long-term supply anywhere in the world, you need large world-class deposits, and those are the ones we're running out of. Because zinc prices were so low for so long, the zinc has suffered from significant exploration, and right now the pipeline is very dry, and that's where we're very bullish on zinc, because there are small deposits that are coming on stream, and I don't think those can ensure a long-term supply over the medium to long term. It's just not going to happen. The last major discovery, in fact, globally, was a company I was involved with, Arizona Mining, 100 million tons of 8% plus. That hadn't been seen in a long time, since Red Dog, really. But that's what the world needs right now. We need Red Dogs. We need more significant, minimum 50 million ton deposits to be discovered and come on stream, and right now they're not out there.
Now, Arizona Mining was a stock you brought to my attention in October 2015 at the Montreal Explore conference. I'd seen it, and the market wasn't really responding to it. It was good grades. The only person who seemed to be funding ongoing work was the CEO, Richard Wark. And I made it one of my top picks early 2016. You ended up, I suspect you were instrumental in Osisko Royalties, buying a 1% royalty
That's right.
And then doing a private placement at 50 cents. And 3 or 4 months later, Bay Street was on board at $1.50, and 2 years later, 2.5 years later, a $2.1 billion buyout by South 32. Back then, what was it that you and Don Taylor were seeing in this project on which, the Hermosa Central deposit, oxide, open pitable, manganese, zinc, lots of money, 30 million plus spent, and it didn't really work. What was it that you were seeing that made you so bullish about the Hermosa Taylor underground?
It's because we applied known geological models to this system, which are crudely known as CRDs. Largely work Peter Mega in Santa Eulalia district in Mexico, and it was a perfect fit for what we were seeing there. And there was past production there. Sarco had mined high-grade lead zinc veins to the northwest, in the volcanic rocks, and we knew the favorable stratigraphy, which are limestones, were underneath. So it suggested that we had a very large system that went down at least 2.5 kilometers down dip. And the oxide zones were just the distal surface expressions of what was probably a very large lead zinc scar in the CRD system, and that turned out to be exactly the case. The system's actually even bigger. I think South 32 made a great acquisitions, and if they can finally get permission to drill on forestry ground, they will expand that deposit significantly.
Now I hear a lot of hype about artificial intelligence, machine learning being applied to geology, to finding the next generation of deposits. In my talk today, I talked about automation as being a very serious threat, taking away jobs from human beings. So my question for you is, your groups, they have big technical teams using the latest digital data. You're compiling all this historical data, you're spinning it in 3 dimensions, creating visual models. Is this what these people mean by artificial intelligence, and is this any threat to the human beings in the field of geology and exploration? Absolutely not.
First of all, artificial intelligence is a bit of a misnomer. It's machine learning. At this stage, there is no such thing as true artificial intelligence. It's just a dream. It may come one day, but right now the key is to use machine learning, to use software to improve the interpretation of large data sets. And a lot of progress is being made, and it holds a lot of potential and promise, but certainly in the exploration front, before you start replacing the human brain has an exceptional capacity for pattern recognition. And admittedly, yes, there's only so much data the brain can absorb at once to recognize those patterns. But largely, replacing that is certainly not going to happen in the short term. And I think a well-trained geologist who has solid knowledge of existing geological models, knows how to apply them, knows which data sets are useful and which aren't. These are all key components that are very hard to integrate into a machine learning system, at least for now. So I think good geologists are here to stay, and companies should focus more on training and education rather than jumping on the AI bandwagon.
Now, Pine Point is your flagship project, which you acquired last year. It was Cominco's best mine until Red Dog came along. Another group during the 2000s took it on, and it ended up in bankruptcy. But right now you're in there applying almost brute force grid drilling, but coupling it with all this digitization, all this 3D modeling. Cominco plucked the 10% combined lead zinc deposits out of the 100 that they had managed to identify. You just reported a resource of 38 million tons of 5 to 6% combined lead zinc. When I crunch the numbers, it looks like that works at the zinc price that we have quite well. You've got ongoing work. There's probably another 15 million tons that you will end up with at the end of the year, probably similar grade. But you're also doing something with new technology, LiDAR technology, which was not available to Cominco in the old days, and gravity, and of course with all the data that you're gathering with the grid drilling and multi-element analysis, you're taking a really big data approach to this. What is the chance that within this grid, Cominco overlooked other 10% combined lead zinc that maybe aren't as close to surface, but still accessible to open pit mining, that later on this summer when you take that on could make this an even more interesting play than it already is?
Yeah, I'd say the chances are excellent. This is technology, as you say, has never been applied before. We've digitized all the drill hole data and come up with internally consistent geological model for the whole camp. We're dealing with essentially the footprint, or the field is about 300 square kilometers in this area. Of course, we don't own all of it, but we will and can have the opportunity to stake it. And that's a question of negotiating and agreeing with First Nations, and we're doing well on that front. So there's still, it's a very large geological system that still has incredible potential. And as far as I'm concerned, the 38 million tons that we're dealing with right now, it's really only the start. Not only is there more potential near surface for these small, relatively small, 2, 3, 4 million tons near surface deposits that are amenable to open pit. What's really exciting about this is that the favorable sequence that can host this kind of mineralization is about 250 to 300 meters thick. And the basal half of that, Kaiser River Formation, has essentially not been explored. Cameco was really only focused on the Sulphur Point and Pine Point formations, on which there's still potential for, again, the smaller prismatic zones. But down below, it's just an open field. And so that's where we're going to be focusing on, is the entire package, using technology, but also following up on the digitization of the drill data that's going to give us leads. Simple example, we modeled the central zone on a continuous basis of 0.5% zinc, just to get a feeling. These are not isolated deposits, they're part of a big system. And at 0.5, you've got continuously mineralized system for 5.5 kilometers. It's absolutely huge. So that points to the fact that this is a very, very large system, big camp, and it still has tremendous potential. So we're going to keep going at it. I think over the next year, we should be able to secure, with more acquisitions where we know there are more historical resources, and starting our true exploration program, because all we've done so far is definition drilling to confirm what was historically labeled. I think we can get to the 45, 50 million ton range within a year. And that's what we're going to be focused on.
And if I hear you correctly, if you can demonstrate the feasibility of developing this 50 million tons, at the same time, for anybody who's considering taking this on, because you guys obviously don't want to become miners, you will have demonstrated the strategic potential for underground mineable resources that could make this a very long-lived mine.
Exactly. Exactly.
This is John Kaiser in Toronto at the Metals Investor Forum talking to Bob Wares. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, John.